This video is brought to you by Alienware, featuring Intel Core i7 processors. Start gaming.
So then, Star Wars movies, everyone's favourite space opera. I recently watched all of them again, all 6, spurred on by a combination of playing too much Battlefront and also, of course, the hype for the new movie in December. And I rewatched them in the order they were released. So I started with A New Hope, then Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then I moved on to the prequel trilogy and watched that in order of 1, 2, 3. Before we get into specifics, I want to let you know that this video is sponsored by Alienware gaming laptops, and if you're interested in checking them out and what other products they've got to offer, there's a link you can click on down in the description below. Okay, it's been a while since I watched the original Star Wars trilogy. The first time I saw it was probably when I was about 8 years old. I've got an uncle, aptly named Uncle Ian, and he is a massive Star Wars fan, and basically he recommended that I watched it. So I asked my mom and they bought me each movie on VHS. Wow, such quality. Better not record over that with some primetime 90s kids TV like Biker Mice from Mars or X-Men, because that stuff was good. So I watched them several times each and I was hooked. Just something about the universe, the characters, the music, the sound effects, the lightsabers. It made the mind of an 8-year-old turn into a cauldron of imagination. So I got all the toys, the posters, played the video games. I was loving it. And then of course, the prequel trilogy releases, and I went to see all 3 of those in the cinema, and we'll get onto those later. And I wanted to give like a brief impressions on rewatching all of the movies now that I'm 28 years old. Are they still good? Do they still have the magic, or have they grown weak with age? So, starting from the beginning, A New Hope, the first ever Star Wars movie. It does a fantastic job of setting up a deep, rich and intricate universe. George Lucas and his team obviously put a lot of thought and effort into this one. Some of the writing is a bit questionable, having watched it back, as is Mark Hamill's acting, but he was pretty new to it. But overall, I still enjoyed it, and it's got that feel-good ending. And something I never noticed when I was a kid, just before they activate the lightsaber, the film actually pauses for a frame or two. Obviously, that's the technique that they had to use back then to make the lightsaber effect, but it's actually very noticeable and quite jarring now. Also, Darth Vader doesn't look as badass as he does in Empire Strikes Back. His costume just looks a bit cheap and detached. But saying that though, he is still a very good villain in that movie with the choking and killing and everything. Sadly, the Blu-ray box set that I have is the one where Lucas actually added in some CGI scenes which just look plain awful, let's admit. Especially the scene with Jabba and Han talking to each other outside the Millennium Falcon. Still, A New Hope, good Star Wars movie. Next, Empire Strikes Back, my personal favourite Star Wars movie. The writing and acting is much better. You've got the Battle of Hoth, Vader revealing that he's Luke's father, spoiler alert, Yoda training Luke up, epic lightsaber fights, the romance of Han and Leia kicks off, Lando Calrissian is introduced, he's a great character, Boba Fett as well, and then the apparent backstab at the end followed by Han Solo being frozen in carbonite. It's all kicking off. The pace of the movie is great, and for its time, it really had incredible special effects and action set pieces. It's just an awesome movie that still retains the magic I felt for it as a kid. Return of the Jedi, now then, another one of my favourites. We get to see Luke as a Jedi in all black as he works with Leia, Chewie, Lando and R2-D2 to rescue Han from Jabba the Hutt, a fat talking slug basically. And who doesn't want to see that? But Lucas added a horrible CGI banned music scene in here for the Blu-ray, and that just... It's disgusting, guys. It makes me retch with displeasure. But then, the emotional scene of Yoda finally biting the bullet. There is another Skywalker. That's my Yoda impression there. Actually, it really hurts my throat doing that. But I'll never forget it. Like, it's still a great scene. And then, as the film climaxes, you've got this awesome back and forth between the ground battle on Endor, which looks just as incredible as it did. Speeder bike chases, Ewoks and Rebels versus the Imperials, just dominating them in ATSTs. And then the massive space battle going on above, attempting to distract and allow the pilots to enter the core of the new Death Star and destroy it. It looks amazing even today, and it's just a thrilling viewing experience, really. The final showdown is a particular favourite of mine as well, with Luke, the Emperor and Darth Vader. Rewatching it, you almost get the impression that Luke is on the cusp of turning to the dark side there when he hacks off Vader's hand. He nearly falls off the edge, but then of course he's fried by the Emperor as he refuses to join him in the dark side, and Vader goes badass mode, hoists the Emperor into the air to stop him killing his son, and throws him to his doom. So cool. And we get to see what Vader looks like under the helmet. Barely anything human left, but just enough that he turned out good in the end and got to see Luke, his son, with his own eyes. It was an awesome way to end the original trilogy. I love the tone of Return of the Jedi, dark and satisfying to the end. Right then, time for the prequels. Oh god, the prequels. So, The Phantom Menace, having rewatched it, not as bad as I remembered it to be, although Jar Jar Binks was one of the worst characters ever in cinema history. It's not funny, it looks awful, and it's just annoying. Like, you can't even understand what he says most of the time. A couple of scenes that I did like in this movie though. The pod racing scene, I still love that. Probably because I played the crap out of the N64 game as a teenager. Also, the final battle with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is pretty cool. The music in that scene as well. It's just so iconic and Star Warsy. But the rest of the movie with all that Princess Amidala Viceroy stuff is just a snorefest, and also the introduction of way too much CGI that looks just unforgivable nowadays. The battle droids, the Gungans, kill me now please. But another thing that I like about the movie, and maybe this is just me, but there's like an under the skin feeling of sadness around Anakin. Like, you know that he wants to do good and just help his mom out, but ultimately he becomes one of the nastiest pieces of work in the galaxy. I think the kid actor that they got to play him in The Phantom Menace was okay. He pulled that off quite well, even if it was unintentional. So, moving on, Attack of the Clones, my least favourite Star Wars movie. I didn't mind it at the start when Obi-Wan and Anakin are trying to find out who the assassin is that tries to kill Padme, and it does a good job of explaining what the clone army's all about, and we get to see Yoda at the end, jumping around like never before with a lightsaber. But that whole scene with the Colosseum and the monsters, and then the clone troopers come in and kill all the droids, I'm convinced that almost half of the movie is CGI. There's not a single real clone trooper, and it just looks terrible. It's like, am I watching a movie here, or is this a CGI cutscene from a video game? Absolutely awful choice by Lucas, and it sticks out as one of the worst movies. Not much good to say about it, to be honest. Finally, Revenge of the Sith. This is actually my third favourite Star Wars movie, and I rate it above A New Hope. Blasphemy, I know. Why do I like it? Well, for starters, it seemed like that there were more real actors in it. People actually wearing alien costumes, for example, instead of just being CGI monstrosities. I also think that it does a great job of showing why and how Anakin ultimately turns to the dark side and becomes Darth Vader. The Emperor, of course, befriends him and then baits him with the whole, hey look, I can save Padme. She doesn't have to die in childbirth like you've seen in your dreams. And of course he wants that, and it's sad because ultimately Anakin is the one that kills her. Like, he force chokes her, knocking her out and betraying her, and then she just doesn't love him anymore. And after all he did, like slaughtering all the little kids in the Jedi Academy and everyone else that he murdered, like, although she's still healthy, she's lost the will to live. And there's just something very sad about that I think the film pulls off very well. And also, like, his mother dies in his arms after he slaughters an entire tribe of sand people that take her hostage. So the kid is pretty messed up by the end of the third movie. The space battle in Revenge of the Sith also seems more real and more like the original movies to me. There are some questionable lines of dialogue in this one though, but from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. That's a particularly bad delivery, and we can't forget the infamous "no" from Darth Vader at the end when he finds out that Padme is dead. I don't know. I'm not so sure about that scene. Overall though, having watched Revenge recently, it's a lot better than I remember, and I think it's a good Star Wars movie. Yeah, so prequel trilogy in summary, way too much CGI, what the hell was George thinking? Some very questionable characters, dialogue and delivery on occasions, but there are some good moments that fans will love, and it helps to explain why things be as they do in episodes 4, 5 and 6. Like, it does a nice job of setting up the story. In order from worst to best, my top Star Wars movie list goes like this: 6, Attack of the Clones; 5, The Phantom Menace; 4, A New Hope; 3, Revenge of the Sith; 2, Return of the Jedi; and number 1, The Empire Strikes Back. So what do you think then? Agree with me? Disagree? I know this is a hot topic, so let's have a little discussion in the comments below. This new movie though, The Force Awakens, that latest trailer, man, That hit me right in the feels. It looks like Disney and J.J. Abrams have nailed the tone of the film. It looks more serious and modern, more focused on the characters. It's got like real practical effects that look really cool, and it's going to be a great flick, I hope, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not. I personally can't wait to go see it, and I've booked my tickets already for opening day in the UK. May the force be with you and your lens flare, J.J. Abrams. And that's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one. I realise it's a bit different from usual. I don't normally talk movies much on here, but let me know if you liked the video by leaving a like and a comment, if you enjoyed it, of course. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.